we're going to talk about the New York Knicks. Melo came back this week. They're 2 games in with Melo. So at this point, what are we thinking about Melo and Lin coexisting, and then you throw in Stoudemire in there as well?
I mean, I think they're going to do it, and I think they're going to do it because they want I think they really just truly want to make this work. Again, I said earlier that Melo takes a lot of heat, but you know what? I truly think that he just wants to make this work. And I mean, look, the first game was rough, losing to the Nets, but look, Darren Williams just went off. Yeah. You can't really blame the Knicks on that one. Yes, they should have played better defense, but that you throw that one away. But they played great against a pretty solid Atlanta Hawks team. And Melo didn't score that many points, which I like to see. I like to see that he's not just going to take a bazillion shots. I like that he's going to defer to Lin and Stoudemire, and I think they're going to make this work.
Yeah, I do too. I think that Melo feels like a little pressure's off of him. I mean, I think he thought he was expected to score a ton of points, so that meant he was going to jack up a ton of shots. But now that they have a third scoring threat, and now Landry Fields is playing really well, all the cylinders look to be firing at this point, that I feel like Melo feels a lot more comfortable. He doesn't need to jack up all of the shots that he usually had before Lin came. So I think it's overall going to help in the long run, and it already looks like, And
absolutely, and I think he, and by saying that he wants the ball in Jeremy Lin's hands, I think he's understanding the fact that Mike D'Antoni's system is predicated on having a good point guard. It is a point guard friendly system, and it doesn't work without a point guard. And we saw that early in the season. Now he's got a point guard who can make it work, and I really think it's going to. And actually, I want to mention something quickly. It's interesting how the big three now for the Knicks has changed mid-season. Coming into the season, it's going to be Melo, Stoudemire, and Chandler. Now Chandler has been left out of that big three and is now becoming Lin, Melo, and Stoudemire. But obviously, Tyson Chandler's contributions to this team cannot be overlooked. He has been one of the most undervalued players on the Knicks team, because he doesn't score really. But on the defensive side of the ball, rebounds, blocks, he's played especially with Lin now. He's played very well.
And that's what the Knicks wanted out of him, and that's what they went out and signed him specifically for. They knew that they
had Melo Stoudemire. They knew the offense would come.
They knew that his offense isn't that big aspect of the game.
Plus, under D'Antoni, they knew they'd be able to generate offense.
Yes. So, I think it's worked out this far. I think that they would be nowhere near where they are right now with Lin. So we can't overlook that as well, right, even though most people aren't overlooking that at all.
All right, we're going to move on now. We're sticking with Jeremy Lin now. We've just seen a lot of guys, we just spoke about Tyson Chandler. We've seen a lot of guys kind of, play better since Jeremy Lin has started. Which player on the Knicks, so we're excluding Mike D'Antoni, and which player besides Jeremy Lin has benefited the most from Jeremy Lin's play?
Steve Novak. He was averaging 3.7 points a game before Lin came. He didn't play in half the games, and I left those out of that stat. So 3.7. Since Lin's first start against the Utah Jazz, he is now averaging 12.3 points per game, almost 4 times as many than he did earlier. I think he's come up big. And, we saw him hit some huge threes over the weekend. And give a little discount double check. A little State Farm endorsement. So, he's really come out huge. To be honest, I'm not a Knicks fan. I didn't even know the guy before he did that discount double check.
Nobody did.
So, Lin's brought someone along with him into really the limelight, and I think that's Steve Novak.
See, I have to disagree with you on this. I think Novak has played great, but I think Landry Fields has benefited. Now, I think that I don't think that Steve Novak's emergence is particularly because of Jeremy Lin, because I think we saw last year a very similar player in Sean Williams. He now plays for the Nets. Actually had foot surgery this week. Sean Williams, similar type of player, came into Mike D'Antoni's system and had a very good season. So I think it's not as much Jeremy Lin as the system is just. And first of all, the reason they brought Novak in because he's been known in his career as a 3-point specialist. So was Sean Williams, and I just think that 3-point specialists are good in D'Antoni's system, and all he needed was the minutes in order to be good.
And he got those minutes when Lin started.
Also because there were other guys that were injured that allowed him to get minutes. Absolutely, though, he's benefited. But I think The numbers may not show it that much with Landry Fields. Before Lynn, he was averaging 6.7 points a game, 2.5 rebounds a game, 2.1 assists, shooting 48%. With Lynn, he's averaging 11.3 points a game, 6.4 rebounds, 2.9 assists, shooting 49%. But when I look at Landry Fields now, I see the same confidence in the same fire that I saw early last year before the Melo trade, and I think that we're finally getting that Landry Fields back, the Landry Fields that New York fans fell in love with. And and that's why I think that Jeremy Lin's been able to bring that out in him, and I think he's going to carry that forward with Melo Stoudemire coming back.
So next we're going to propose the question, can the Knicks win this year, and can they win one or more beyond this year? So what do you think about that, Jordan?
I think they can. I really do. This might just be a knee-jerk reaction to the recent success, but I really do think that they will be able to contend this year. I'm not saying they're going to win. I don't think they're going to win. I don't even think they're going to make the finals. I'm not even sure they're going to make the Eastern Conference Finals, but I think that they can make some noise in that first round and maybe get to that second round. I don't think they can get past that second round, and I think it's very likely they lose in the first. But I definitely think that they can really make a strong showing in the playoffs and come back next year now with Jeremy Lin, with a starting lineup of Lin, Fields, Melo, Stoudemire, Chandler, add some guys to the bench, and I really think that they will be contenders years to come.
Yeah, I don't think this year's their year to win it. I think that all this has come together midway through the season, and now that they know who their point guard is and all that, they can start building the team around what they have, their starting five, which you just mentioned, in the offseason. I think next year will be a great year for the New York Knicks, but I think this year, I just think the Heat, Thunder, and Bulls are so far ahead of everyone else that, I think they'll win their first round game. The Knicks, I'm going to assume that they get a 3 or a 4 seed and get home court advantage and win the first series, but I don't think they can beat the Heat or Bulls at this point. But, we still got 32 games or so left.
Yeah, we got to see what happens.
Look,
I've also never been a huge fan of Mike D'Antoni, and I'm still not. Maybe again, it's a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction because of the recent success. But, looking at the numbers, their defense is, Mike D'Antoni's never been known for his defense, but their defense this year has actually been very, very good. They're ranked 12th in the league in points allowed per game. It's very much improved. And again, I think Mike D'Antoni's system got exposed early in the year when it was missing a point guard, and we saw that is really the need. And, now they have that point guard. Hopefully Jeremy Lin is that point guard. And, if he is, and if Melo Stoudemire and Lin can gel, there's no ceiling for this team.
Yep, very true. I think that they have, the sky's the limit for them at this point. We don't know what they're all capable of. We've only seen 2 games with this team in. So we don't know. And
again, we talked earlier about team. I said that it seems like the Thunder, good benches are key, and the Knicks actually have a surprisingly deep bench. When you get past starting lineup, you have Iman Shumpert, who as a rookie who's played very well. Steve Novak, as we mentioned earlier, is playing terrific. J.R. Smith coming back from China, he is playing. He's really come back strong.
He was a huge addition.
Even Jared Jeffries is playing well right now. The bench is playing very well, and I really do think that they can make some noise in the playoffs this year. All right, we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to go with some trade deadline talk, and then we'll move on from there. Stay tuned, listeners. Back to Sports Talk with Tall and Small. I'm Jordan Seeley with my co-host Arthur Lane. We just finished up with some discussion on the New York Knicks, and in that, following that topic, just a quick update on the Knicks Heat game in Miami. The Knicks are trailing the Heat 19-15. Artie, got a Quinnipiac update?
Yes, Quinnipiac is up 19-13 with about 7 minutes left in the first half against St. Francis of Pennsylvania. So, big sports night across the nation. We got some here and we got some down in Miami. Definitely keep our eyes on the rest of that Miami Heat Knicks game.
All right, now moving on to our next topic. With halfway through the season, that usually means that the trade deadline is coming up, and there's been a few trades discussed. Obviously, the big one, which has been discussed for almost 2 years, for almost a year now, Dwight Howard, who we talked about earlier as our pick for the Defensive Player of the Year, has been mentioned a ton of trade deadline rumors. Do you think he's gonna go?
I think he's not going to go. I think he's staying in Orlando. I don't think that they're going to trade him.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I mean, everyone knows that he wants out and that he'll leave at the end of the year, but the Magic just seem not to they don't want to let go of him. So, I mean, it's probably the best idea to trade for him so you get something. I mean, he's letting you know I'm going to leave, get something for me. But I mean, they don't feel. I mean, they don't sound like they're.
I mean, I think I think their thinking is that they can. I don't think he's gonna be traded too, and I think there is, if they can make a strong showing in the playoffs, I think there is a possibility he might resign. I mean,
absolutely,
it really doesn't make much sense for him to leave. What does he need to leave? I mean, they were in the finals a couple of years ago. They've gotten a little older, so they're gonna try and get younger now. They got Hedo Turkoglu's contract coming off the books. That was a huge amount of money. They amnestied Gilbert Arenas earlier in the season. They're gonna have some money to play with this offseason. And they can make some noise. And I really see no reason why Dwight Howard should leave. And honestly, I would love to see a star for once in the NBA stay put. Obviously, in the past few years when we've seen stars going all over the place, Melo to New York, LeBron to Miami, Bosh to Miami, Stoudemire to New York, Chris Paul going to the Clippers. So much movement. It would just be nice to, for once, see one of these guys stay where he is.
Absolutely. So, continuing on with some trade deadline talk, the other big name that's been out there has been Paul Gasol. Kobe came out earlier in the week and said trade him or don't trade him, but make a decision right away. So that's been kind of on the hot stove. So should the Lakers trade Paul Gasol? I
mean, he's been mentioned in so many trade talks. Obviously, there was the whole thing in the beginning of the year when they were trying to get Chris Paul. That was the trade that was vetoed by David Stern, that had him ending up in Houston. And and actually that was that veto deal ended forced him to trade Lamar Odom because he was hurt by the fact that they were trying to trade him, and Paul, they kept Gasol,
which has led to the most disappointing player in the year. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, I honestly believe that it would be in their best interest long term to trade him. Short term, definitely not. Short term, I think that they can still contend, with him and Kobe Bryant and Andrew Bynum. But I think it's in the best interest long term for them to trade him. I mean, they're a very old team. Obviously, Derek Fisher, Kobe Bryant, Ron Artest, Meta World Peace. I'm sorry, Paul Gasol. Andrew Bynum's really the only young player on this team. I mean, they could really use a lot. Some draft picks, get his contract off the books. He's got a big deal. And, just really try to get younger and build towards the future. If you can get a lot of young players now that can help Kobe Bryant win a championship late in his career.
Whatever they do is going to tell us exactly what the management feelings is. If they trade, if they trade Paul Gasol, then they've given up on the season because they're not going to get anything that's immediately good. So if they trade him now, it'll look like they're giving up on the season. And if they aren't, then it's going to show us that they're trying to win right now and don't really care as much about the future than right now.
They're willing to wait and figure out the future later.
So,
but then again, if they trade him, they're going to say, all right, we're going to concede right now, but that's because we're planning to come back in a couple of years.
Exactly. And I don't think, and Kobe's come out and said it, that's not how Kobe wants to go about stuff. He wants now. Oh,
well, absolutely. He's coming, down to the later years of his career. Yeah. He doesn't know if he can wait 2 years for them to possibly be good again. Yeah. So obviously, and definitely he's created a nice, chemistry with Paul Gasol over the last few years. They've won championships together. But again, Kobe's absolutely right. And we've also seen in the past couple of days, the players have now met to talk about this. I mean, this is really messing with the team right now. Magic Johnson came out either today or yesterday saying that Kobe has to talk to Jerry Buss, the vice president of the team. It doesn't appear to us like that, but apparently it is really affecting the team and the locker room. And Kobe's absolutely right. If you're gonna do it. Figure it out now. Stop waiting. Yeah, just get it done. Make a decision.
Yep.